Shop Lowe's in-store or at lowesforpros.com. And while you're at it, pick up a little something for yourself, too. Lowe's, the new home for pros. While supplies last. U.S. only.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Sadly, our quarantine kitchens are here to stay for a little bit longer. The good news is we have Alton Brown to show us how it's done.
I love that it's real and raw on Quarantine Kitchen because it's, I think, what we expect of you and what you're bringing to the at-home culinary revolution. But tell us about cooking during the pandemic, please.
If we're going to look at the bright side of all this, it's that we're home and we still have to cook. And I think that people are learning that they can embrace that in ways that they haven't before.
True.
My advice to people has been, since it started, play with your food, experiment, use what you have, adapt. The other great thing is that since we're working at home so much more, we can kind of break up our cooking during the day. If you got 10 minutes here, you got 15 minutes there, you can slowly prep meals. Do your slicing and dicing in the morning. Make things like rice in the afternoon. And then by the time the dinner rolls around, you don't have so much to do.
Food and Wine with Chef Jamie Gwen, every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central on Chicago's Smart Talk.
Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today, I am really thrilled to be speaking with Cook County Assessor Fritz Kaegi. And this is, just there's so much to talk about here. And just so everyone knows a little bit more who Fritz is, since assuming the office in 2018, Fritz has brought fairness, ethics, and transparency to the Cook County Assessor's Office with a vision focused on operational changes, technological upgrades, and the elimination of favoritism. We'll talk about how he has accomplished his goals, what property owners should know about the property tax system in Cook County, and how COVID is affecting property valuations. So, Fritz, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here, Aaron. Thanks.
You're welcome. And, before we got on here, we were just talking about the different connections we have, throughout the city. And it just shows you're in charge of a pretty big department there. We've never met before, but we're connected through the Bernsteins, who Henry is a great friend of mine. And we've, I've had his mom and aunt on the phone, and you went to school with his brother, Eddie. And Kelvin Harris from the Chicago, who works in your office, and he, we're connected through the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. And you told me you even met your wife there.
Yes. So, Chicago is such a wonderful a mix of all these different communities. And I grew up in another one of them, Hyde Park, which is a lot like Evanston. And the great thing about Hyde Park is, my dad was a professor at the University of Chicago. So I was involved in all the things going on with the U of C and met all the interesting people who were there. I started at lab school, but I was kind of unhappy by the time I got to middle school, and I switched to Kenwood Academy, the public high school serving Chicago, Hyde Park. And Hyde Park's the capital of Chicago's Black middle class, and so I got exposure to that. And Eddie Bernstein and I were in the same class at Kenwood Academy. We created one of the first fantasy baseball leagues back then. It wasn't called Rotisserie. And we would always hold our draft in the Bernstein's living room with Eddie and his younger brother, Louie. It was a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And then, growing up in Hyde Park, I developed these interests in international affairs. I originally wanted to be a diplomat. And so studied Russian and lived abroad there for a while, and then got involved in the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, for whom I met my wife at a dinner for Russian speakers.
Wow!
And she teaches Russian, so this is how it all ties together. And actually, my wife, when she was growing up in Michigan, her pastor was Dean Francis, who became the pastor at First United Methodist Church in Evanston. And so when our kids were young, we were going up there. We became members there. And that's one of our ties to Evanston. The other tie to Evanston I thought I'd mention is that Rebecca's family, a lot of them gone to Northwestern, and one of her relatives, his ashes were buried under the baseball field. He was Harry Wells, and it used to be called Harry Wells Field at Northwestern University. They renovated it a few years ago. My mother-in-law wrote to them. She grew up in Evanston on McDaniel, and she said that as you are doing this renovation, you may come across an urn of their ashes, and they did.
Wow.
And so there's a little plaque there commemorating it, so that's how I'm tied to Evanston.
You are really tied to Evanston. I remember watching that renovation take place, and I should go take a walk over there and look at the plaque.
Over on the first base line, there's a little flower bed, and they got a plaque there.
That's really beautiful that they did that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. The baseball field used to be named Harry Wells Field, but as things happen at universities, when they get a new donor, they rename it so now it's some other person's name, and then there's a little Harry Wells field plaque there too.
At least he's got something.
All right.
Yeah, it's all right. He'll be okay, I think.
Yes, it's just fine.
Yes. It's funny, by the way, with the council and how you met your wife at one of the events. I did an event there, and we'll get to the assessor and everything.
Yes.
But there's so much to talk about. I interviewed Richard Longworth, who is one of the senior fellows at the council.
Yep.
This is a couple of years ago, and we were talking about the history of the council. And he was talking about how the Young Professional Network was all about, really, in many ways, yes, it's learning about these things, finding people who have similar interests, but a lot of people met spouses there.
Yes.
And there is a great example. So I'll have to share that with him.
Absolutely. We're really lucky to have it. The Chicago Council is one of the biggest organizations of its kind in America. It's a really special thing.
Oh, it's been a wonderful thing. I agree. It's an asset for this community. But to get back to what you do and the role of the assessor, I guess what is your job? I mean, do you set the taxes, or do you look at every single property and figure out how much it's worth? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Our job is to figure out what the market value is for every piece of real estate in Cook County. That's our job, basically. We also add on.
Are there?
Pardon?
How many properties?
There are close to 2 million. There's 1.9 million parcels in Cook County. It is the biggest market-based tax jurisdiction in the United States. Los Angeles is a bigger county, but they have Prop 13, and like the assessments are frozen in amber. Whatever you bought it for is what it's assessed at. Here, we are the key standard for fairness in our property tax code is market values, because the way we fit into the property tax system is that you have taxing bodies like your school districts in Evanston and Skokie, your municipality. That's probably 2/3 of what the average Evanstonian pays in property taxes, and then there's Evanston's share of the county. The water board, those guys determine how much money they need to raise every year. Mm-hmm. And then that is divided up amongst all of the property owners on the basis of their share of total market value in Evanston and Skokie. And so our job is to figure out what things are worth. And the key standard is market value, because that's what's the standard for fairness set up in the property tax code.
So obviously it's impossible for you to go to each property, right? With 1.9 million properties. So how do you determine what they're worth? And is it different for residential and commercial?
So the way we basically, if you look at the beating heart of our office, is what we call our valuations group. And they have two different functions. One of it is our field team, which is go out, think of it as a census of all the buildings in properties in Cook County. So that's our field team, what we call data integrity. They're going out, making sure that we have the right footage and attributes of all the different buildings. that's sort of one of the basic foundational bits of data that we work off of. And then we have our analysts who are out there looking at markets, who are seeing what is the cost of a square foot in the market today for office space or for retail space or for single family homes. And they try to see, how does the market think about these things? We look at the transactions that happen. And then you're right, we have to, roughly 250 people at our office, get a handle on these 1.9 million properties. How do we do that? Well, we look at transactions that happen, and in single family homes, about 5% of the single family homes transact every year. So maybe over a 3-year period, we will have 15% of the market trading in a place like Evanston. The other 85 doesn't. And so we have to figure out from those 3 years that just happened, what did people pay in all these transactions? If we look at per room or per fireplace or square foot on their lot, and the location, and from all of that information, apply that to the other 85% that didn't sell. So we have the same standard for everyone. That is how we do it. Now, here's a couple other wrinkles. We do 1/3 of the county every year, because it is such a giant task. So in 2019, we reassessed the north suburbs, including Evanston. In 2020, we reassessed the south and west suburbs. And in Chicago, we'll do it in 2021. That will be the first year that our administration has reassessed the city. So from what we're doing, it's that 3-year cycle. There's an additional wrinkle in the sense that your assessment has a 1-year lag effect on your taxes. So if we reassess Evanston in 2019, it only affected the average Evanstonian's tax bill in the second half of 2020.
Right,
so
and
your
that's
tax
something
bill
that's
this year-
hard for people to figure out because it's in arrears. I always try to
Right.
educate my clients about that and about how tax prorations work, but it's because of this, because it's in arrears where the bill comes out the year later for the year prior.
And there's a quirk in history that the reason why that exists is in the Great Depression, it was so catastrophic that no one paid taxes 1 year.
Oh my God.
In like 1933 or something like that, because all the banks went under. I mean, it was a real catastrophe. And so basically Illinois has never caught up since then. It's always been 1 year in arrears. That's why it is, believe it or not.
That's interesting. And, you think about other things and we're going to take a short break in a moment, but, you think about the 2008 crash, you think about what's going on now with COVID and how that is going to affect things with valuations and how that translates into changes in your property tax bill. And I even got a letter here from you the other day that I want to just go straight to the source and ask you about. So we're going to be coming back just shortly here. We're going to talk a little bit more about your background and why you chose to be to run for this office and what you're doing to clean things up and make it more transparent and equitable. So everybody, just stick around here and we will be back shortly.
Okay, thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome. Skokie and Evanston resident, host of Inside the Skev, and local real estate expert. As a community connector and realtor with Dreamtown Realty in downtown Evanston, I know firsthand what makes the Skev such an amazing place to live. When I'm helping my clients buy and sell properties inside of the Skev or out, I'm doing it with the best technology and support team behind me at Dreamtown. During the pandemic, I've been able to help my clients seamlessly stay on track with their home search. From immersive 3D Matterport tours, professional photos, to virtual open houses, my clients can find their homes safely and comfortably, and even from their couch. When you're ready to make a move, know that I'll be here to help. You can always find out more about me at skevinston.com/real estate. Again, that's skevinston.com/real estate, or email me at aaron@skevinston.com.
Mortgage rates have reached record lows recently. If you see homeownership in your future, the future is now. Think of Beth Lewis at Cross Country Mortgage as your personal mortgage shopper. She'll sort through racks and racks of home financing options until she finds exactly the right style and fit for you. She'll get you pre-approved to give you an advantage over other buyers, and she'll close your loan quickly with a highly efficient process driven by advanced mortgage technology. So far in 2020, Beth has come through for over 680 individuals and families who needed home financing. Beth will be here for you too, because helping people get mortgages is what she does best. Visit BethLewisTeam.com to get started. That's BethLewisTeam.com or call 847-274-9745. That's 847-274-9745. Cross Country Mortgage LLC, NMLS 3029, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing opportunity, Illinois residential mortgage licensee. Recognized as the third largest Holocaust museum in the world, Illinois Holocaust Museum inspires people of all ages to take a stand against anti-Semitism, hatred, prejudice, and indifference. An award-winning and world-class attraction, the museum has a fantastic slate of engaging virtual programs, including discussions on social justice topics, film screenings with talkbacks, lunch and learn sessions with scholars, authors, and experts, and more. There's truly something for everyone. Tickets for virtual public tours of the blockbuster exhibit Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, are available now through February 20th. And speaking of inspiring pop culture icons, on January 21st, you and your friends have the opportunity to test your pop culture knowledge during the virtual event Take a Stand Trivia, hosted by the museum's Young Professional Committee. Thanks to Let Us Entertain You, this event can be transformed into a dinner party with food and cocktail kits available for curbside pickup in the city and suburbs. Visit ilholocaustmuseum.org for more information. Relationships are at the base of just about everything in life. If those relationships thrive, so does your life and your business. Prue's Coach Leader Academy helps individuals to entire companies learn a coach approach to support positive relationship. PCLA's ICF accredited coach training program transforms and equips individuals and companies with a skill set to support others' growth and development. PCLA. We coach, we train, we mentor. Get started today at Prue'sCoachLeader.com. That's PREUSS Coachleader.com. Moving day is a happy day, but how can you be sure all of your stuff will get to the new place in the same condition they left the old place? Upgrade your experience to First Class Moving and Storage. You'll get a team of professionals who treat all of your belongings with care and have the right tools to make the job go smoothly. They even offer a full packing service. Upgrade to First Class Moving and Storage. They're local and independently owned. For more info, visit the website at firstclassmovers.com. That's the number one, stclassmovers.com.
The Dave Ramsey Show.
Chicago Smart Talk, AM 1590 and FM 95.9, the exclusive home for the Dave Ramsey Show in Chicago.
Welcome back, everyone, to Inside the Skev. This is Aaron, your host, and I'm here with Fritz Kaegi, the Cook County Assessor. And we were just talking, about Fritz's background and our connections here within Chicago. And we were talking about how real estate tax assessments take place. And Fritz, you were talking about the residential market, but the commercial is a little bit different. And there's been a lot of articles that have been written throughout about the changes in how commercial property values have shifted since you've taken office. But a lot of it has to do with transparency. Can you tell us what that means and what you've changed in order to come up with those valuations?
Sure. So again, under the property tax code, our valuations are supposed to reflect market values. And yet, as anyone who has lived in Cook County for a long time, the assessments that were sent out didn't seem to have any earthly relationship to the values that we know in the here and now on planet Earth. And in Evanston and in Chicago. And the problem with that is that because, as I mentioned, each person's share of market value in the community is determining their share of the property taxes. If the number to start out with has no relation to market values, then it's really hard to figure out where you stand if everyone is so far off tether from the market. And that was particularly true of commercial properties. There are so many different examples that you could come up with. I mean, for folks who are in Evanston, many people are familiar with the Hotel Orrington.
Yep.
when we came into our reassessment, it was assessed at $16 million in market value, but it had a mortgage that was over $30 million, and it transacted for well above that amount. And they'd filed an appraisal with the SEC because their mortgage was part of an SEC bond, a bond that was publicly traded. And they said in that appraisal that it was worth 60. So this is how things can get so far off tether. And when that property is off tether, all of our assessments are interconnected in Illinois. How one property is valued affects you, Aaron, even if you don't own that hotel, because if their share of the total market value that we're basing everything off of is so low, then everyone else, your neighbors are making up the difference. So and basically, I think a lot of the criticism comes from the fact that people totally acknowledge that the old assessments didn't reflect market value and were way off. And people don't even really argue with the numbers that we use, because the numbers that we were using pretty objectively reflect market prices that are paid, and market numbers that anyone can look up. And what people didn't like was that their assessment went up.
Right. Nobody likes that.
Right. But what I'd say is that this is the way we're supposed to do it on the law, and it's the only way to be accountable and transparent, because what we're saying is we're using market values in our assessments. And if you disagree, show us how we're off, how our market value is off. When you have assessments that are completely off in a completely different place, how do you know where you stand? How can anyone evaluate the job that the assessor is doing? And I think that's what made people so frustrated with the old system.
Well, right. It's not tethered in reality. And what's funny is I was talking to my son, Joey, about this interview earlier this morning. And I was telling him what the role of the county assessor is. And he said, well, is it possible for like somebody who has like $100 million house to like get assessed at, and my son's 10. So like, this is new to him. And he's like, is it possible for someone who has like a big mansion, like $100 million mansion, to get assessed for like $100,000? And I said, well,
yes,
that doesn't really happen as much. But when you think about big properties in downtown Chicago or other places that were being assessed at values that were maybe half of what they actually are in the market, like between 150 million to 300 million, you really were dealing with things like that. So
yeah. and these have real dramatic implications for people. I think if you look at Evanston, we actually had a study done by the International Association of Assessing Officers, which is like the gold standard in the world of assessors. Like, they're the best. And we had them look at every transaction that took place in the commercial space in 2018. And they found dramatic underassessment of commercial property across the whole county. So in Cook County, the average assessment was 40% under what the property was bought for in 2018. In the city of Chicago, it was 50%. In Evanston, it was worse. It was under 50%.
Wow.
And so the average Evanstonian was paying it was probably over $1,000 per year per average home in Evanston, that undervaluation on commercial alone. So that's really tremendous. Not only, for an average Evanstonian in their finances month, year to year, think about how much $1,000 would mean to an average family, but then also it affects their housing values. As
absolutely.
The higher your tax bill, the lower the market price of your equity. And so $1,000 could easily translate into, per year, could easily translate into tens of thousands of dollars of home equity. That's why this is so important.
It's so important.
Because the only standard that we can all hold ourselves to feel comfortable with this amount of money on the line for the average family is to make sure that everything market, and that we're holding ourselves accountable through all the studies to make sure that everyone is paying their fair share of the levy, which is large. I mean, we pay a lot of property taxes here in Illinois, so that's why it's important.
Right. And it's what you're doing is by having equity, you're not giving social welfare to large companies. You're distributing it the way that it actually should be. And, I've seen properties where they've been assessed too high and the taxes are too high. And my clients have, when they're purchasing, have gotten a better deal because of that. So it's very important. It's dollars and cents for people. And when we come back, we're going to talk about more about equity in property taxes and your background and whatnot. So everyone stick around. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Rates have reached record lows recently. If you see homeownership in your future, the future is now. Think of Beth Lewis at Cross Country Mortgage as your personal mortgage shopper. She'll sort through racks and racks of home financing options until she finds exactly the right style and fit for you. She'll get you pre-approved to give you an advantage over other buyers, and she'll close your loan quickly with a highly efficient process driven by advanced mortgage technology. So far in 2020, Beth has come through for over 680 individuals and families who needed home financing. Beth will be here for you too, because helping people get mortgages is what she does best. Visit BethLewisTeam.com to get started. That's BethLewisTeam.com or call 847-274-9745. That's 847-274-9745. Cross Country Mortgage LLC, NMLS 3029, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing opportunity, Illinois residential mortgage licensee. Recognized as the third largest Holocaust museum in the world, Illinois Holocaust Museum inspires people of all ages to take a stand against anti-Semitism, hatred, prejudice, and indifference. An award-winning and world-class attraction, the museum has a fantastic slate of engaging virtual programs, including discussions on social justice topics, film screenings with talkbacks, lunch and learn sessions with scholars, authors, and experts, and more. There's truly something for everyone. Tickets for virtual public tours of the blockbuster exhibit Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, are available now through February 20th. And speaking of inspiring pop culture icons, on January 21st, you and your friends have the opportunity to test your pop culture knowledge during the virtual event Take a Stand Trivia, hosted by the museum's Young Professional Committee. Thanks to Let Us Entertain You, this event can be transformed into a dinner party with food and cocktail kits available for curbside pickup in the city and suburbs. Visit ilholocaustmuseum.org for more information.
Reading, writing, and math are a struggle for a lot of young students. At BrainLinks, we know those skills are what paves the way to independence and success. Our specialists will help your child develop the habits they need to make sure they strive, not only in class, but out in the world in general. And of course, for everyone's safety, our lessons are done completely online. For more info on our team members and to schedule your initial consultation, visit BrainLinksAcademics.com. That's BrainLinksAcademics.com.
Relationships are at the base of just about everything in life. If those relationships thrive, so does your life and your business. Prue's Coach Leader Academy helps individuals to entire companies learn a coach approach to support positive relationship. PCLA's ICF accredited coach training program transforms and equips individuals and companies with a skill set to support others' growth and development. PCLA. We coach, we train, we mentor. Get started today at Prue'sCoachLeader.com. That's PREUSS CoachLeader.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron Masliansky, longtime Skokie and Evanston resident, host of Inside the Skev, and local real estate expert. As a community connector and realtor with Dreamtown Realty in downtown Evanston, I know firsthand what makes the Skev such an amazing place to live. When I'm helping my clients buy and sell properties inside of the Skev or out, I'm doing it with the best technology and support team behind me at Dreamtown. During the pandemic, I've been able to help my clients seamlessly stay on track with their home search. From immersive 3D Matterport tours, professional photos, to virtual open houses, my clients can find their homes safely and comfortably, and even from their couch. When you're ready to make a move, know that I'll be here to help. You can always find out more about me at skevinston.com/real estate. Again, that's skevinston.com/real estate, or email me at aaron@skevinston.com.
happy holidays from Mike Jackson Outdoors Radio. Sunday mornings, 8 to 9 a.m. on Smart Talk.
We are back on, everyone. This is Aaron with Inside the Skev, and we are here with Fritz Kaegi, the Cook County Assessor, and we are just talking a lot about the taxes and a lot of interesting things that go on within Cook County. And just before we start talking again, I want to give a shout out to my cousin whose birthday is today, Efrat. Happy birthday. And my aunt Nakama is tomorrow. So if you both are listening, I hope you are. I want to wish you both a happy birthday. But Fritz, we were talking about how a little bit even during the break about how the difference in valuations can drastically change what somebody's tax bill is going to be. Another thing that can really change what somebody's tax bill is going to be is the effects of COVID. So I got this letter, of COVID on the real estate market. And I got this letter from you this week, which was perfect, talking about how the assessed value of my property has changed because of a COVID adjustment. And, there's always different things that go on that can change values. How did you guys, you decided this early on that you got to make an adjustment because there is a huge financial impact on people. So does this actually change people's tax bills, or is it just the assessment, and how does that work?
Sure. So COVID has been an economic catastrophe for so many different people, with really effects that are concentrated on some. Some people are doing better out of this,
right?
But what was happening was that when COVID hit in February, we were just starting to send out our assessments for the South Triad. And once we started to see the magnitude of what was happening, that we were going to have record unemployment, that all sorts of commercial businesses were going to be completely shut down, that it would devastate certain kinds of people and people who worked in certain sectors, people who worked in these service sectors, especially. So we said, we know that in our property tax code in Illinois, there's a natural disaster clause that basically allows assessments to be done after the January 1st date that we normally would do it. Normally our assessments, we do it on your value as of January 1st, but because there was this natural disaster declaration with such an epic impact, we said, look, if we don't do anything, there will be some who can use this clause in the property tax code to reduce their assessment because of the impact of COVID. But the majority of people don't know how to work this system. And they would be disadvantaged by that there would be one group that would be having assessments that more reflect the massive impact of COVID, but nothing for everyone else. And they'd be picking up the tab. And we said, because the impact is so big, because we do have some data on this, we can do our assessments as of the natural disaster declaration date, and have that incorporated in people's assessments. We had until about the end of April until it would have been all the tax schedule would have been thrown off. So we had to call this as of the end of April. And what we did is we looked at all sorts of different data that we had. We actually had more commercial data than residential data, which is kind of the opposite of the normal case. But on the commercial side, we could look at all the different public capital markets. There are instruments that trade that can tell you what the market thinks the impact is on office, on retail, on self-storage, on gas stations, on theaters. There's really amazing diversity of these concentrated instruments. And we could say, okay, the market's saying the impact of COVID on office space is 10 or 15%. And on apartments, it's 5 or 10%, or warehouses, it's 5%. But on data centers, there's no impact, actually higher.
Right.
But on theaters and hotels, down 25 or 30. So we had that. On single family, there are some instruments that trade that are single family homes, the big portfolios of single family homes. These are actually the biggest owners of single family homes in Cook County. we could use that. We could use past experience, what happened with the downturn in 2008. Our federal regulators use unemployment models to see if there's a change of unemployment of X, then house values should go down by X. And then what we could do is we could look at the structure of employment in different parts of the county. Some parts of the county, employment is all in service industries, and those would be some of the most impacted by COVID. In other parts of the county, there are sectors that wouldn't have been impacted. So we had to put this all together, make a call as of the end of April, and that's what we did. And so the letter that you got, that everyone got in Cook County, reflects those adjustments. So for residential, the average single family home down 8 to 12%. For 2 to 6 flats, adjustment was a little bit larger because there's more economic sensitivity of renters in those kinds of buildings based on all the data that we have. And then for commercial, it was a pretty wide range. But the additional factor that makes it complicated is we had to look at the starting point for those assessments. And that was particularly difficult in Chicago because, as I mentioned, the assessments were quite under-assessed to begin with. So that's how we tried to process the impact of COVID, but we wanted to get ahead of it. We wanted to be on top of it because that work that we did, that we worked really hard on through April, that will impact people's tax bill in second half of 2021. If we didn't do anything, there would be that unequitable impact on people in 2021. And then we'd only start incorporating the effect of COVID in our assessments this year. And it might take several years for it to finally work through to people's taxes in the suburbs and in the south suburbs. And we didn't think that was fair. So
no,
that's why we did it.
I think it makes a lot of sense because the impact is now. And, for some people, valuations have gone up for residential. But there's plenty of areas, like you said, where you're taking the indexes of where things are changing and it's transparent. I think that is so important. You talk about the process. I bought my first property. I was a young man. I didn't really know much about property taxes. And a few years after I had owned it, somebody said, "Oh, don't you have your homeowner's exemption?" I'm like, "What's that?" And I worked in real estate. I was working for a developer, but that wasn't the area that I was really thinking about or working on. And I had to go back and I, filed for certificates of error, and I got a bunch of money back because of that. And then later on, hired real estate attorneys to help appeal my taxes. But, it always like an unspoken thing. You got to have an attorney in order to do the appeal. You've changed a lot of that and are making it easier for people to understand what their assessments are. And if you're a senior, things have changed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So many of us who grew up in the Chicago area, there's something where if you reach a certain age, someone who loves you takes you aside and says, "Look, here's how this system works." Their assessment that the assessor sends you, you don't know what number it is. You don't know if you're getting a fair shake. You're going to be screwed if you don't hire a lawyer through some hinky process. They get it reduced. And if you don't play along with that, you're a sucker. And this was a conversation that my dad had with me when I got to the age where I might have a house. And this is what a lot of us grew up with. And what we don't realize is this is so incredibly anomalous in the United States. We're one of the last places where, many other places used to have hinky systems sort of like this, but we have changed it. So the first thing is we have to make sure our assessments at the outset are accurate, because the standard we hold ourselves to is how are we serving the average person who does not appeal? You should not have to appeal your assessment. Like you should be able to expect as a Cook County property owner that we are doing a good job getting that right in the first place, as is done in the rest of the country. So that's one. Mm-hmm. Two, if your assessment is off, because we are 250 people trying to assess 1.9 million properties off of data that might be really old or inaccurate, we don't know some of the unique circumstances of your home. It is 100% certain that you know more about your house than we do. And what we know may be 30 years out of date. This is really important to make sure that we've got it right. The key thing is you do not need a lawyer to fix this, because you are the expert on your own home. Why would you want to pay someone else money to tell them about your house, and when it's just a matter of fixing data with us? And so what we've really tried to assure the public is this is a data question. This is not an access question. So one of the problems with our office is that the previous assessors, they financed their campaigns through donations from property tax appeals lawyers and appraisers who practice before the office. What an incredible conflict of interest, right?
Oh my God.
And that's how all this bad stuff got started. If you depend on getting donations from lawyers and appraisers who practice before the office, very quickly you create this favoritism, you create this sense of access. I've gotten letters from, and you've probably gotten letters from lawyers too, bragging about former assessor's office employees that are on their payroll saying that we can get you a special deal. So this is, we want to extirpate that culture, that sense of preference or access from our office. So we created online appeals.
Yeah.
Put all sorts of data out there for people to see. We posted all our valuations formulas and all the data that underlies them to the public, so people can kick the tires.
We are going to just take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get the website and everything and talk more about this. So everyone stick around for some important information.
Is the third largest Holocaust museum in the world. Illinois Holocaust Museum inspires people of all ages to take a stand against anti-Semitism, hatred, prejudice, and indifference. An award-winning and world-class attraction, the museum has a fantastic slate of engaging virtual programs, including discussions on social justice topics, film screenings with talkbacks, lunch and learn sessions with scholars, authors, and experts, and more. There's truly something for everyone. Tickets for virtual public tours of the blockbuster exhibit Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, are available now through February 20th. And speaking of inspiring pop culture icons, on January 21st, you and your friends have the opportunity to test your pop culture knowledge during the virtual event Take a Stand Trivia, hosted by the museum's Young Professional Committee. Thanks to Let Us Entertain You, this event can be transformed into a dinner party with food and cocktail kits available for curbside pickup in the city and suburbs. Visit ilholocaustmuseum.org for more information. Relationships are at the base of just about everything in life. If those relationships thrive, so does your life and your business. Pruce Coach Leader Academy helps individuals to entire companies learn a coach approach to support positive relationship. PCLA's ICF accredited coach training program transforms and equips individuals and companies with a skill set to support others' growth and development. PCLA. We coach, we train, we mentor. Get started today at PruceCoachLeader.com. That's PREUSS CoachLeader.com. Moving day is a happy day, but how can you be sure all of your stuff will get to the new place in the same condition they left the old place? Upgrade your experience to First Class Moving and Storage. You'll get a team of professionals who treat all of your belongings with care and have the right tools to make the job go smoothly. They even offer a full packing service. Upgrade to First Class Moving and Storage. They're local and independently owned. For more info, visit the website at firstclassmovers.com. That's the number one, stclassmovers.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron Masliansky, longtime Skokie and Evanston resident, host of Inside the Skev, and local real estate expert. As a community connector and realtor with Dreamtown Realty in downtown Evanston, I know firsthand what makes the Skev such an amazing place to live. When I'm helping my clients buy and sell properties inside of the Skev or out, I'm doing it with the best technology and support team behind me at Dreamtown. During the pandemic, I've been able to help my clients seamlessly stay on track with their home search. From immersive 3D Matterport tours, professional photos, to virtual open houses, my clients can find their homes safely and comfortably, and even from their couch. When you're ready to make a move, know that I'll be here to help. You can always find out more about me at skevinston.com/real estate. Again, that's skevinston.com/real estate, or email me at aaron@skevinston.com.
Mortgage rates have reached record lows recently. If you see homeownership in your future, the future is now. Think of Beth Lewis at Cross Country Mortgage as your personal mortgage shopper. She'll sort through racks and racks of home financing options until she finds exactly the right style and fit for you. She'll get you pre-approved to give you an advantage over other buyers, and she'll close your loan quickly with a highly efficient process driven by advanced mortgage technology. So far in 2020, Beth has come through for over 680 individuals and families who needed home financing. Beth will be here for you too, because helping people get mortgages is what she does best. Visit BethLewisTeam.com to get started. That's BethLewisTeam.com or call 847-274-9745. That's 847-274-9745. Cross Country Mortgage LLC, NMLS 3029, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing opportunity, Illinois residential mortgage licensee.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's JT from Barbecue Nation. Bring in the new year right with Barbecue Nation, Saturdays from noon to 2, right here on WCGO.
This is Aaron with Inside the Skev here with Fritz Kaegi. And Fritz, we were just talking a little bit about how people can go about getting their property bills or property assessments reassessed or appealing, and how it's changed, where you've made it easier for people to be able to go on and do that and file for exemption. So, just so people know, what is the website that people should go to learn more to do that?
Yes, so you can go to cookcountyassessor.com, and then on the site there, right at the jump page, you can put in your PIN, or if you don't have your PIN, that's your parcel identification number. If you don't have your parcel identification number, you just press a button and put in your address, and you can do that for any home. So you can see how you're assessed and how your neighbors are assessed, and compare. Then furthermore, you can now, starting last year, we put into place technology that allows you to file for your exemptions online through DocuSign. That was really heaven sent because of the impact of COVID. Can you imagine what it would have been like if we had hundreds of thousands of seniors and others coming to the office in the middle of COVID just to file paperwork for their exemptions? And that's the way it was before when I came into this office. It looked like the scene at the end of the Raiders of the Lost Ark with all those boxes. We were inundated with paper. We had 600 tons of paper just in 1 year's worth of appeals when we came in, sort of the physical embodiment of what was wrong with this. So we worked really hard on making sure the assessments are right. On the website, you can go and see how you're assessed. You'll get a notice in the mail too whenever there's a reassessment. And you can see, and the key thing to look for is the market value that we've estimated. Does that jibe with what you know your home to be worth? Most people have a pretty good idea of what their home is worth in the market, and just to compare it, if we're within 10%, we think we're doing pretty good. But of course, you might think differently.
Right. And one thing is like, for people who are listening, if you've worked with me and you get your tax bill and you have a curiosity of if it's jives with the actual reality, realtors and different people in the area have a good handle on it. So I imagine a lot of your public interface with the community engagement is to work with those professionals and get that knowledge on the ground, right?
Well, yes. Yeah, so we have a really hardworking outreach team that gets out. We try to get out to where people are. So if we, during COVID, we had lots of virtual outreaches through Zoom where I was personally present. We had one wonderful outreach team that does this too, helping people understand the system, understand the process, how they're assessed, how they can appeal it if they don't think they've been assessed fairly, how you can make sure you do have the exemptions that you're entitled to. You mentioned you didn't have a homeowner's exemption on your home. Like something north of 20% of single family homes don't have a homeowner's exemption. So we work really hard to make sure that people do have a homeowner's exemption there. People should know that if they haven't had a homeowner's exemption, they can file for something called a certificate of error to have retrospectively that given to them, and then they get cash back for the amount of property tax that they overpaid. So these are all important things that you can do on our website, cookcountyassessor.com. You can talk with our outreach team. We worked really hard to reach people during COVID. The office downtown is closed, right, and in Skokie is closed right now to be safe, but we will have a period for people to schedule visits if they need to come in person at the Skokie and the Chicago office, as people will get their first property tax bill from the treasurer in January, and people apply for that. The other thing that we've done, Aaron, that people should know is that it used to be seniors had to reapply every year for their senior exemption to basically recertify that they're still over 65, which is,
why would they do that? I mean,
none of us are getting any younger. This was something that was a source of constant frustration. We worked, and the reason why, I guess, was folks in Springfield didn't think the assessor's office could stay on top of whether people were still alive or had moved. And in this age, if we can't do that, that is a disgrace. So what we did is we talked to the leadership in the General Assembly. We said, look, we can, in this era of big data, we can do this, and here's how we can do it. And we worked with them in writing in the legislation. We worked with our sponsors, Fred Crespo in the House and sponsors in the Senate. We got it passed. So now senior exemptions automatically renewed starting last year, and that saved hundreds of thousands of seniors from having to fill in paper forms or go into our office last year during COVID. It continues this year. There's some other exemptions that also auto-renew because of COVID. Folks with disabilities, veterans with disabilities, and the senior freeze. And so we're trying to react to COVID and provide lots of resources online so you don't have to come in.
Well, it's amazing that you could do it online. I remember, and if you're, by the way, if you're a homeowner, do you have to file every year for your homeowner's exemption?
You do not. The homeowner's exemption automatically renews, but you should always check. There can be some things that might cause it to fall off. Where if it looked like in the data that if you refinance your mortgage, sometimes in the data that can look like you moved.
Yeah.
So you should always just check and make sure that your homeowner's exemption is automatically renewing. We work really hard to make sure that it does, but you should always just check.
Well, it's super important. And I love that it's all online now, because it was something where you'd have to go get it notarized, and then, or you go into the county building and deal with it. And, it was an experience for me back several years ago to go and file for all these exemptions and go, it was almost like a court type of thing to go and appeal and file in the certificate of error. And it just seems like you've joined the 21st century.
Well, it is. I have a little story. There was right when we came into office in December 2018, there was a conference of assessors around the United States that was here in Chicago. And I wanted to I brought in the Dallas County assessor, who's the assessor of one of the biggest counties in the US, just to show him, because I was appalled at the amount of paper. And I just wanted to show him and say, I got to show this to you. And so we brought him to the 9th floor where our analysts sit. And he saw these 600 tons of paper, and he got his phone and showed it around and called his friends. Hey, y'all, look at this! And it was basically he said that this is what our office looked like in 1980. But now we've really made a big tech transformation. We don't need that paper. All those appeals now, those appeals that came in, they were filed in the order they were received. So if we wanted to get useful information out of those paper appeals in Evanston, we would have literally had to go through thousands of boxes. Can you imagine?
It's crazy. Well,
there was no sprinklers in there, so the digital has made it much better.
Well, I sorry to wrap up. I'd love to speak with you much, much longer if we could, but thank you for what you do. Everyone go to cookcountyassessor.com. Stick around for the Fred and Hannah show. I will actually be on at 12:06. So listen then. We'll talk about this conversation, and thanks everybody for listening. And thank you, Fritz, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Aaron, and to the listeners out there. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Get on Santa's nice list with Albany's world's best ultimate 8-flavor gummy bears. The gummy with the A on the tummy. Albany's world's best gummy bears are available at most major retailers.
This is Danny Farrell, inviting you to join me right here on WCGO every Saturday evening starting at 8 p.m. for the original Big Band Show.
All right, thanks. Say hi to Henry for me.
I will, for sure. Take care.
All right, ciao.